What if Yoda killed Palpatine in revenge of the Sith? What would that mean for Anakin? What would happen to Padme and her kids? Would the outcome be different for the galaxy now that Palpatine is no longer in control? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna find out in this What If, so let's get started.
What?
Our story begins in the Senate chamber as Yoda and Palpatine duel for the fate of the galaxy. If Yoda wins, then the leader of the Sith and Empire will be defeated. However, if he loses, then the galaxy will be plunged into chaos for decades. Sidious deactivates his saber as he leaps onto a Senate pod, observing his surroundings. He begins throwing several pods at the Green Grand Master, who narrowly dodges and tries to find a way through. When Yoda redirects a pod of his own, he springs towards Palpatine, causing the Dark Lord to fire directly at him. But now this is where Yoda would really take control of the fight. He uses his hands to absorb the lightning bolts, and when he feels enough power, he begins to redirect the bolts back at Palpatine. The Emperor's face collapses as he realizes he has underestimated the strength of Yoda. In the original timeline, this conjunction of force energy causes them both to fall back, but in our story, Yoda takes advantage of this moment and ignites his lightsaber, slicing through the lightning and stabbing Palpatine in the chest. The Dark Lord falls to the bottom of the Senate pod. He was dead. Yoda let out a loud sigh of relief. With Palpatine gone, things became easier, but he quickly moved his thoughts to what he was gonna do next. He pulls out his comlink and tells Bail Organa to come to his location. As the Grand Master jumps into Bail's speeder, Yoda asks if the Senator has heard from Obi-Wan, but he hadn't. Yoda decides to call Kenobi himself. As he starts his comlink, he calls Master Kenobi's name, hoping to hear a reply and positive news. But the line was blank. Yoda sat in silence for a moment as he thought. If Obi-Wan wasn't responding, it meant one of two things. Either he was still fighting Anakin and could be in grave danger, or he was dead. The second option made Yoda's spine shiver. The Grand Master had grown a strong affinity for Kenobi. He admired the Jedi's tenacity and resolve to continue training despite the difficult start in the order he had, recalling in his mind how Obi-Wan was initially left unchosen by a Jedi Master and sentenced to a life in the agricultural corps. He couldn't let that little boy down now. Kenobi had told Yoda he tracked Anakin to Mustafar, and so that's exactly where Yoda told Bail to fly to. Hey everyone, really quick, for the entire month of January at Fantasy Sabers, we are giving away a free Negotiator Deluxe Saber with every order over $250. This is your chance to get 2 sabers for the price of 1. We have over 100 sabers on offer, and I would strongly encourage you to check this out if you've been wanting your own saber. Thanks again, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Hours later, Yoda and Bail would arrive on the lava planet to see Padme on the ground unconscious, and Anakin and Obi-Wan nowhere in sight. As Bail goes to help Padme and brings her aboard his ship, Yoda follows his senses to the lava bank. Yoda moved faster than his cane allowed, sensing the urgency of this situation. The closer he got, the sound of clashing sabers swelled in his ears like a storm breaking overhead. There he found Anakin and Obi-Wan on the lava fighting. They both saw and sensed Yoda immediately. Both Anakin and Obi-Wan simultaneously leaped to the bank where Yoda was standing. The Grand Master stares Anakin deep in the eyes and tells him his master is dead. Anakin's resolve faltered. Palpatine was dead? Was that really true? Then rage consumed the newly turned Sith Lord. If Palpatine was dead, that meant the secrets to saving Padme were lost. She would surely die now, he thought to himself, all because of the Jedi. Once again, they have thwarted his desire for a future. Anakin looked to the sky, to the crimson hue of the clouds as they cascade against his face, and then back to the Jedi. As rage swelled, he ignited his lightsaber and told them they would pay for what they have done. A 3-sided duel began, and while Anakin was outmatched, his arrogance led him to believe he stood a chance. I mean, only hours prior, he had stormed the Jedi Temple with Commander Oppo and the 501st, fighting dozens of Jedi at any particular moment. Anakin threw his saber at Obi-Wan, was using the Force to push stones from the bank at Yoda, before recalling his saber to his grip as they clashed against Yoda's emerald blade. He was acting wildly, trying bizarre techniques he knew the Jedi would never condone, almost to mock them, to paint their hypocrisy right before their eyes. But Kenobi and Yoda maintained their resolve. Obi-Wan fought with Sorsu and let Anakin come at him, fighting defensively. As time went on, Anakin tired, and he was no match for the combined strength of Obi-Wan and Yoda. As the Master of Arrogance lunged forward, Yoda swung with no mercy, catching Anakin's leg and forcing the Sith to the floor. Anakin lay on the stones unarmed, as Yoda pointed his emerald blade to his throat. Yoda announces it's over, raising his blade, but as he goes to swing down, Kenobi screams at his master to wait. Obi-Wan says he's unarmed, that is not the Jedi way, and he must live. As the two looked at Anakin, fire latched onto his feet. The flames crawled up Anakin's body like living serpents, devouring his robes and flesh alike, as his screams were swallowed by the roar of the fire, until he was nothing but a silhouette against the scorched stones. Obi-Wan said they had to make his decision now. Yoda's ears lowered slightly as he looked down at the broken man before him, the fire from the lava reflecting in his eyes. Slowly, the Grand Master deactivated his blade and said that killing an unarmed opponent would make them no different to the Sith. They had to be better. Using the Force, they bring Anakin's body back to the ship as they ascend from the planet, unknown whether Anakin would live or die. From here, they would go to Polis Massa, where just like the original timeline, Padme would give birth to twins, but die from a broken heart because Anakin had fallen to the dark side. Anakin was placed in a Bacta tank in a room next to Padme's, where a long healing process of the Chosen One began. Meanwhile, Yoda, Obi-Wan and Bail discussed what to do next. Kenobi's emotions were all over the place as he paced back and forth and tried to accept the events of recent days. He thought things were looking up after he killed Grievous, but it meant nothing. It was completely and utterly useless. Bail said they had to act quickly. With Palpatine gone, the Senate will be in outrage and there will be calls for an explanation. Kenobi held firm on the idea of clearing the Jedi's name. He believed it was unfair to let the memory of the brave warriors be of treachery. Yoda agreed. As they spoke, Obi-Wan's comlink buzzed, and when he opened it, a small hologram of the old Togruta Jedi, Ahsoka Tano, appeared. The tension in her eyes was palpable, as she feared the worst. She told the Masters that Master Skywalker was not answering his comm channel, and said it's urgent she speak with him. They all lowered their heads, hoping another would answer her plea. Kenobi would play the role of the communicator, as he explained that Anakin had turned to the dark side, that the Jedi Order was destroyed, and Padme was dead. Ahsoka couldn't believe it. Her master was dead? But was it even her master if he had turned to evil? She initially protested with skepticism, but quickly understood it was the truth. Her voice trembled as she spoke further. She said that Maul escaped when the clones turned on her, and with no Sidious left, it was perhaps only a matter of time before Kenobi's old rival made his move. The Jedi looked at each other with a concerned look. She was right. Before closing the call, Obi-Wan told Ahsoka to meet them on Naboo, where Padme's funeral would be held, and where they were planning on keeping Anakin captive until the storm of politics rolls over. Meanwhile, Bail Organa goes to Coruscant as the Senate grows uneasy. Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying the video. Just a quick reminder to check out Fantasy Sabers and all the deals we have running this whole month. In the immediate aftermath of Order 66, Maul traversed the stars as he figured out what to do next. He severed his remaining ties to Mandalore and abandoned the last known remnants of Crimson Dawn to ensure no trail led back to him. He stole a fast courier ship, jumped from system to system along minor trade routes, gathering supplies, weapons, and information while the galaxy burned in confusion. Eventually, he found himself in a cantina on Dantooine as he sat alone in the corner, observing a wide range of customers, from farmers to musicians all the way to bounty hunters buying a quick meal. His eye caught the HoloNet screen above him, and when he looked on the daily news, his stomach dropped. The face of Chancellor Palpatine was displayed with a giant cross through it, and when the bartender turned the volume up, it was announced that Palpatine was dead. Maul froze as he tried to sense his old master's presence, but there was nothing. The oppressive presence that had stalked his every thought since boyhood was finally gone, like a storm cloud torn from the sky. Dead, he thought, the word echoing inside him, sharp and intoxicating. The master who broke him, the master who denied him his throne. Laughter crept into his chest, low and dangerous, as realization took hold. This was the moment he had been forged for. The galaxy was never meant for Skywalker, he told himself, nor for old men hiding behind thrones. It was meant for one who understands pain, fear, and control. He left the cantina at once as he flew into his starship and hit hyperspace. Maul tracked down and infiltrated an old Trade Federation command ship drifting in deep space. entering it to only find it empty. The corridors were cold and silent, its vast droid holds darkened like a tomb. Sidious had deactivated the droids days earlier, confident the war was finished. Maul marched into the central control nexus and used the Force to turn the wheel, bringing the entire facility to life. One by one, thousands of battle droids snapped to life, their hollow eyes glowing as if awakening from a long, obedient sleep. Standing amidst the rising hum of power and marching metal, Maul fell whole in a way he never had before, not an apprentice, not a discarded weapon, but a sovereign force. With an army at his disposal, Maul set his course for Coruscant. Meanwhile, the Jedi arrived on Naboo where they held a funeral for Padme. Once that concluded, they took the damaged Anakin to the outskirts of the planet. He was barely alive and in a fragile state. The Bacta tank had healed his deep tissue wounds, but the broken man would never look the same. Yoda, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka placed him in a cell constructed for Force users, where there was zero chance of him escaping. Here, and against Yoda's wishes, they began trying to turn him back to the light. However, across the galaxy, Maul's droid fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Coruscant without warning. On the ground, the stormtroopers coordinated their defenses without an absolute leader. Republic starships were sent into the atmosphere to fend off against the droids. A massive dogfight begins in orbit. Bail Organa watches this from the surface and immediately contacts the Jedi on Naboo, telling them to return to Coruscant immediately and prepare for warfare. As he continued to look towards the sky, droid carriers filled the sky. Gunships burned as they fell through the clouds. Within minutes, battle droids poured into the streets, their blasters cutting down anything in their path. Stormtroopers rushed to meet them, forming firing lines across bridges and plazas. The fighting was brutal and fast. Blaster fire echoed between the towers, smoke turned the air thick and black. Maul landed in the heart of the city. He ignited his lightsaber and cut through squads of troopers, deflecting shots back into their ranks. Explosions tore through the streets as droids advanced behind him. Step by step, the defenses collapsed. Coruscant had never seen war like this before. By the time Maul reached the Senate, the battle was already lost. He entered the chamber alone and climbed to the central podium where Palpatine once stood. HoloNet cameras turned towards him as he spread his arms. All the senators in the room were terrified. They had heard of his savagery during the Clone Wars. Maul stood at the center of the Senate chamber and looked out across the galaxy through the waiting holocams. The throne that once belonged to Palpatine now belonged to him. With the city burning and no one left to challenge him, Maul claimed power for himself. The galaxy had a new emperor. But before anyone could respond, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi could be heard as he told Maul the galaxy just had a tyrant for a leader and they don't quite feel like another one just yet. Rage and anger swelled within Maul as Obi-Wan, Yoda and Ahsoka approached. The Senate chamber erupted into chaos. Senators scrambled from their pods, shouting as they fled for the exits. Guards dragged others away as blaster fire suddenly filled the room. Battle droids emerged from the upper levels and opened fire on the Jedi. Yoda, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka moved at once, deflecting shots as bolts tore through empty seats and shattered durasteel. Pods sparked and crashed as panic spread throughout the chamber. Then the clones arrived. Gunships cut through the open airspace and troops poured into the Senate Hall. Blue blaster fire slammed into the droids, cutting them down one by one. The Senate chamber became a war zone, smoke hanging low as clones and droids traded fire while civilians escaped. At the center of it all, Maul attacked. He leaped from the podium with a snarl, his red blade clashing into the Jedi. Obi-Wan met him head on, their sabers locking as Maul pressed forward with raw strength. Ahsoka struck from the side, fast and precise, forcing Maul to turn. Yoda moved like a flash of green, driving Maul back with the Force and sharp, controlled strikes. Maul fought with fury, spinning and striking without pause, but he was outnumbered. Each attack was met, each opening closed. The Sith grew impatient and began throwing wild and incalculated strikes, which the Jedi took advantage of together. They pushed him back, and after a lifetime of rivalry, Obi-Wan delivered the final strike, killing Maul. He fell to the feet of the Senate pod, his rule lasting only moments longer than his master's. It was over. It wouldn't take long for the droids to be defeated, and once that happened, Coruscant quickly began to rebuild. The scars of war remained, but the fighting was over. In the aftermath, Bail Organa was elected Supreme Chancellor, tasked with guiding the galaxy out of darkness and towards stability. On Naboo, Anakin Skywalker had survived. His recovery was slow, both physically and emotionally. For months, the Jedi watched over him as he faced the weight of his choices. In time, he finally returned to the light and became filled with regret. He accepted what he had done and carried that shame, determined to spend the rest of his life making things right. Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Yoda began the new Jedi Order. Survivors of the Purge stepped out of hiding and returned to Coruscant. They used the holocrons, which detailed the list of Force-sensitive infants, to populate the new order. 5 years passed, and the Jedi now numbered 400. Peace had endured across the galaxy, and the fear that once ruled the stars had faded. For the first time in a generation, hope felt real. Most of all, Anakin Skywalker found purpose again. He was a devoted father to Luke and Leia, and fought hard to keep the memory of Padme alive. Through patience, love, and example, he worked to raise them to be good people, determined that his children would grow up to serve the galaxy, not rule it. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Yoda Saved Anakin and What If Anakin Told the Council Why He Killed Dooku. If you love Star Wars, then you need a saber. At Fantasy Sabers, we offer sabers from your favorite characters, as well as custom hilts which we have made ourselves. It's such a fun community and has grown my love for Star Wars so much. I'll leave a link in the description, so be sure to check it out.